The big fear I'm hearing on the internet these days is technology addiction. I think my kids are addicted to technology. That's what lots of parents are saying. It's what even more thinking, but not saying. And then they hear things like unschoolers don't set any limits on their kids when it comes to their phones, tablets, desktops, all their electronic devices. I did an interview last Friday over at Amazon Live on this topic of technology and video games. So over the weekend, I asked my Unschooling Mom to Mom Facebook group what they want to hear more about. Hands down, the topic they want to hear more about is what if my kid only wants to play video games? So that's what we'll talk about today. In case you're new here, I'm Sue Patterson, and this is the Unschooling Mom to Mom podcast. I'm bringing 25 years of unschooling experience here, and I want you to know that you do not have to duplicate school. Unschooling really does work. My own 3 kids are grown now, all different paths, all unschooled, all off on their own young adult adventures. I do this quick little pep talk of a podcast to encourage you that this can work for you and your kids too. It won't look exactly like my path, but that's what creating a truly individualized approach is all about. Making it unique for you, learning from other people what they did right and maybe even what they didn't do well. Taking the data and seeing what fits for you, for your kids, for your family. I have all kinds of ways to bring you support: an unschooling course, a membership group, unschooling guides, one-to-one coaching calls. So much variety because I want to offer ways to get you this information that works for you. How do you learn best? Reach out and I'll help you find the resources that you need to be successful at unschooling. So let's tackle that technology issue. I touched on this a little back in episode number 30. So if we come to the end and you think, I need a little more than that, you can go there next. Lots of parents come to me saying, they only want to do video games. I think they're addicted. Let's dismantle that a little more. The first part is the story you're telling yourself about them only wanting to play video games. That kind of all or nothing thinking doesn't help you. Most of the time, when we dig a little deeper, we find examples of them doing other things too. They make it to their sports practice, they bake with mom, they show up for meals, they play with the dog occasionally. It's really all about our fears running the show, making you look away from the examples of it not being true and focusing on behaviors that keep you worried. Peeling that back and looking at it is important. The next part has to do more with your knowledge about unschooling or lack of knowledge. When we understand that humans are hardwired to learn and we move toward our interests when we're given the chance, we can see that this is exactly what the kids are doing. We don't need to fight it. We may need to learn more about it. That's why I always tell people that if you're feeling fearful about anything, move toward it. Learn more about it. What is going on exactly? And when you do that, you'll see all kinds of learning happening. It's just up to us to notice, to not allow our own fear to distract us from the reality of what's happening. Fear can sound like all kinds of things, like, what kind of parent lets a kid do this? What's wrong with my kid? Why don't they like the things they used to like? Or how will they be prepared for the future if this is all they know how to do? Or it's the technology. It sucks you in and it's out of your control. Or technology is so addictive. I've read all the research. So yeah, I get it. Some of these questions are even things I thought back in the day. But all that is fear talking. And all it takes is looking at those fears, those questions, and answering them. There's a lot to unpack there. So let me give some quick answers before we get to the one you came for, addiction. So what kind of parent does this? One who is engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on with their kid and trusts the biology of humans wanting to know more, learn more, satisfy curiosities. Why won't my kid do things they used to do before they discovered Minecraft or whatever the game of the day is? Maybe they've outgrown those old interests. Maybe the technology allows them to do all kinds of things they weren't able to do before. How will they be prepared for the future? The future is moving toward more technology, not less. Their ability to navigate and problem solve will be beneficial in their future. The companies they'll work for or start themselves will want someone who knows how to work with things like gamification. Information technology is part of every company. The more you know about what the kids are doing, the more you'll be able to answer this for yourself. That technology sucking you in and you're not in control, that sounds a little like projecting, maybe. What kind of modeling are you doing in your home? Isn't it important to figure out how to manage it? It's not controlling you. It's a choice. Isn't it better to help kids figure out how to manage all this freedom while they're still at home with you, providing food and shelter for them? They're going to need to learn how to do this. Banning them from their devices is not going to help them learn. So addiction. Wow, I took a long time to get to that one, didn't I? Kids wanting to play on their devices whenever they have downtime or not otherwise engaged time is not addiction. It reminds me of when we used to have TV on from dinner time until bedtime, and no one said your family is addicted. It was just part of the routine, something we preferred. Same with the kids. Sometimes people say addiction because they've heard about dopamine in brains and how this is similar to heroin addicts or something. But that's sensationalism. And that's what sells those articles, right? Truth is, dopamine is released every time we do something we enjoy. Those first few bites of a favorite food, dopamine hits similarly. Diving into a swimming pool on a hot summer day, dopamine. Hugging your loved ones, also dopamine. So don't get swept away with the dopamine analogy. Kids have fun on their games. So yes, dopamine is released. It's okay. It's not heroin. Families who have had addiction issues know that this is not the same. The damage, the disruption to the family, when we're talking about true addictions, not the same. So using a term like addiction when we're talking about something our kids enjoy sends all sorts of confusing messages. Messages about judgment from you, messages affecting their own self-esteem, messages to make them think something is wrong with them because they enjoy video games. I'd like you to rethink that. Haven't we all had a hobby we loved and maybe spent a lot of time on? Or a project that we immersed ourselves in and we lost track of time? Isn't that what's really happening with the kids and their devices? Unschooling parents have a unique position here because we have so much time with our kids. You have plenty of time to figure out if there's an underlying problem or if they're simply enjoying themselves. Maybe it's time to lean toward what you're considering the problem and gather more information and connect more with your child. And it would be really helpful to stop referring to this as an addiction. Instead, think more positively. Use words like immersion, engrossed, fascinated, or fully engaged. When we think about the kids' interest in this way, we connect more and our fears lessen. We can see that all this dedication is helping them become an expert in certain things that are important to them. That in itself is a transferable skill that they'll be able to take with them as they get older. That persistence and grit that it takes to stay with something, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard, to attain the goal. Another life skill they're learning through gaming. As we start to make this shift, we can celebrate that they're passionate about gaming. There's nothing wrong with that. So do you see the difference in shifting how we talk about it? Sure, kids may be spending a lot of time on their devices, and you may want more time with them or long for life a few years ago when they were younger. Welcome to parenting. But some of that might have to do with their developmental phase. And some of it might have to do with what else is on the buffet, so to speak, at your house. Maybe it's time to brainstorm with them about where they are now and what their interests are. Don't be surprised if they tell you that it's gaming. It's all they want to do. So how can you support it? How can you show that you value what they value? How can you learn more about it so you're not so afraid of it? If you're new to lifting some of these limits, you may find kids cling to their technology. But as they see that you aren't going to flip-flop, that they can come back to it even if they step away to help you wash the dog, they won't feel as desperate to hang on to it. Another quick note, when you hear people say that unschoolers don't believe in limiting screen time, I want you to know they're leaving off a few critical pieces. Unschoolers don't believe in arbitrary limits for anything, really, including technology. No random 2 hours allowed kind of thing. What's realistic in the day to day? That's your starting place. And when you prioritize communication and connection with your kids, partnering with them to help them, as well as be inspired and reassured ourselves, this concept of screen limits begins to fall to the wayside. Every time I start to talk about technology and unschooling, I feel like I only get to the tip of the iceberg, and we're really already coming in at this 10-minute mark. So I'm going to wrap this up. But this is why I created the Unschooling Guide about technology. I have so much more in there to help you peel back your fear, see what's really going on, and connect more with your kids. It's a fabulous guide. I'll leave a link for it. The bottom line is they're not addicted to technology. They enjoy it. They learn a lot from it. They may need help managing it, and that's why it's important for you to dig in and see what your motivations are and if they're rational and aligned with this partnership we're trying to create with kids. We talk about this a lot in the membership groups. So if you need to bounce ideas off of other families in the same boat, join us. I'm doing 3 group coaching calls every week, plus a variety of other ways to help you. And that unschooling guide about technology is included in the membership. So that's it from me for now. Enjoy the kids, happy unschooling, and we'll talk again next week.